All right, guys, so I have my notebook here. I want you to have your own notebook for this activity, and I want you to be taking notes on, this is what I'm going to be doing, graphing with, go ahead and write this down. I'm going to check that you have this done. Intercept form, okay? And I will zoom in a little bit. So that's the title of it's going to be a flow map. When I say flow map, I'm going to have basically 3 boxes. So give yourself, this is how I do all my notes. They're called thinking maps, all right? And then I'm not exactly sure how that last one will be. Actually, no, we're good. We're good. We're going to squeeze it in there. All right. Try to keep yourself as organized as you can. I know I got a little off there, but look at the space I have. Now, for dealing with this, I'm going to now use a different marker. I'm going to show you, it's going to say graph y equals, I'll say 2 over 3x plus 1, okay? Now the first thing I'm going to have you guys do down here, it's going to say first, I need you to write this down, so I'm going to zoom in a little more. First, identify the slope and the Y-intercept. First, identify the slope and the Y-intercept, okay? So that's super important. Right here, I'm going to put slope here and Y-intercept, and we'll talk in more detail today about these two things. But this form you're going to see a lot. And this is also written, and write this up here, y equals mx plus b. Oops, okay. Y equals mx plus b, okay? So the m is the slope, and I'm going to put an m here, and the b is the y-intercept, okay? So the m is the slope, so I'm going to go ahead and put that here. So your slope is 2 over 3. It's not the x. The x and y are their own actual, think of it, this is actually a coordinate point that would go in both of these. Remember, we did points yesterday. So don't think of the x or the y as the slope. The slope is 2 over 3, and your y-intercept is positive 1. Okay? Cool. Now that we identified those, it's super important that you know which is which. We're going to go ahead and graph this. It doesn't have to be super perfect today, since I don't even have graph paper right here. But now I'm going to write it again. It's going to say graph y equals 2 over 3x plus 1. Okay? So that was your first step. Second, now that you've identified it, plot the y-intercept. You're writing all this down. I'm going to check it. Point on the y-axis. So on your graphs, they usually even put x and y here, okay? So what you're going to do is plot 2 over 3. Actually, hold on. 1. You're going to plot the 1. That's your first step. You deal with the b. The b. Y equals mx plus b. You're dealing with that b at the end of your equation. At the end of your equation, okay? So you're going to plot that on the y-axis. Where would positive 1 be? Let me go ahead and make some marks here. Again, I am not being super perfect with this. You can do that as well. This all needs to be done. I'm going to be checking in a flip grid probably tomorrow that your notes are done, and you're just going to show me in the beginning of a flip grid that you have the notes done, okay? So positive 1, and there's that first step. You just plot that right there, okay? Now that we've done that, we're basically going to copy this graph over to this side. And our next step. And I'm going to do this again. All right, we're going to go +1. That's where it already was. And I'm going to write the equation again. We already dealt with that y-intercept. Last, you must rise and run, which is a positive slope. Remember, we learned that today. Or if it was negative, you would fall and run. We'll talk about those in a second. From the point. Or from, I'm going to put this Y-I-N-T. Okay? So you're going to rise and run or fall and run. And what is our slope again? 2/3. Okay? So you're going to rise and run or fall and run. So this one we're going to rise and run. It's going to go up 2 and run 3. From which point? From this point right here. So I'm going to go rise 2, 1, 2, and run 3. 1, 2, 3. And that's where I'm going to put my other point and try to draw a straight line. And then you're done. All right, you just graphed an equation, a linear equation, a straight line in slope-intercept form. Okay, now you can push pause anytime to get this video properly done. So here's my flow map, all right? I want this done. And now I'm gonna turn the page and we're gonna do some practice real quick. All right, and I'm just gonna say graph, and you're gonna push pause and go ahead and graph this, okay? Push pause and graph. Number 1, this is practice problems. Graph y equals 3/5x minus 2. And that's the little curveball, okay? Go ahead and push pause and do this. Now, if you're checking your work, your first step, you should look at your flow map and see, what should I do? I need to plot the y-intercept, right? So I'm going to go ahead and -2. Isn't that where -2 is on the y? -2 on the y. And I'm going to go rise 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to run 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, another positive slope. They're not always going to be positive slopes, but this one is. It's a positive slope, right? This is our slope. But what's the y-intercept? The y-intercept's negative. Notice that we're going underneath. This is 0. We're going -1, -2. So that's an interesting thing. How could this be like in a word problem? What if you were in a submarine at -200 meters or something, and then you're rising, and this wouldn't make sense because you're rising out of the ocean. The ocean would be your x-axis, but you see what I mean, right? Underwater, okay? What if you were, I don't know, there's a couple different methods or stories you could think of. All right, what if you're in debt with money and then you keep making money over a certain amount of time? We're going to talk about all those kinds of situations. All right, let's do one more. So go ahead and draw a quick graph. We're just doing quick graphs here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know it's super messy, but this one's going to have a negative slope, and I want you to be good with that too. Instead of rising and running, we're going to fall and run. So go ahead and graph y equals, I'm going to even mess with you a little bit more, and I'm not going to give you a fraction. The slope is always a fraction. Over here it was a fraction. It always is a fraction. But think of -3. What is -3 as a fraction? Go ahead and push pause and graph this on your own. We start at +2. I'm going to go down 3. Okay, over 1. Down 3. 1, 2, 3, over 1. Okay. Down 3 over 1. And that's how you would graph that. All right. have this written down. Keep your notebook out for our 1 o'clock Zoom. I might be doing a couple more things in regards to practicing for our graphing today. All right. Thanks, guys.